Moriden, Athluan.
Every tale has its dark side, my friends. Even so noble a hero as Moriden did not always help the people.
Do not take this as truth, but there are rumors that he worked for a time for the Thieves Guild of Skyrim.
So sorry to miss the beginning of the evening tale, my friend. What did I miss?
Though none alive would dare to besmirch Moriden's name, the rumors persist. Some claim that he finally fell to greed and avarice. Others, that he was forced into serving their desires.
Oh. Well, of course it would be this part. Should have realized. Not like there's a great deal of my story left to tell.
Despite what seems evidence that cannot be explained away, yet others claim that Moriden became one of the greatest of thieves, not for personal gain, but to once again save the people of Skyrim from the darkest of horrors.
Oh, that's rich. The darkest of horrors. Seriously. The only thing I saved anyone from during that time of my life was the burden of a full purse. The rumors, I'm afraid, are true, my friend.
So, though they are only the darkest of slander, dear listeners, gather round once more and hear the tale of the greatest of thieves.
For it to be slander, it would have to be intentionally wrong. Much of this tale is right, but they won't give you the details. You know how much I enjoy a good tale in a good tavern. So let me save you the pain of listening to the drivel. Far enough from the rest of the people here that I can tell you how it really happened. Because the truth of it... The truth is not what the bards would have you believe. One Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. After some sleep, I began looking for the site of this tournament that Aryan had directed me to. The directions he gave had been vague. Near Kagranzel, I remember that tomb all too well. One does not easily forget free-falling over 200 feet straight down into a massive underground lake easily. Making my way to the region, I went somewhat further than I had when last I was here, and found that there was a narrow cave opening. Making my way through it, I emerged into a small mountain valley. My first view was of a statue of Boethia. I wonder if Aryan knew what he was directing me to. I also, still, wonder just how much he knows about everything I've ever done, really. His sources of No, I will not ponder this now. What is important is that I am now certain that this tournament is more a form of Boethia worship. Well, that being the case, it's a good thing I'm her champion now, isn't it? Really, I'm hurt I wasn't directly invited now. On the stand, I found nothing relating to any so-called tournament. Perhaps Aryan's information was wrong. There was a body, however, a fresh one, at that. This former researcher had been looking into legends surrounding one of Boethia's former champions, it seemed, and had a dagger on him that might have been the one referenced in the legends. Supposedly there is other information as well at the researchers' camp near Ivarstead. Why would this moron make his camp in Ivarstead and then walk all day to get here? Why not just make his camp out here? Ha! Some people make no sense. I had no sooner finished reading his notes when a dragon descended upon me. Ho-hum, another dragon. The thing didn't last long, though it was of a design and color I've not seen before. Once I killed the thing, I heard a loud pop, and turning around, saw a portal open on the top of the shrine base. Apparently she wants something of me again. May as well. According to Ithelia, her attention has been paid for. This sky was never on Skyrim. The red skies churned above me as I appeared, and a feeling of vast heat overwhelmed me nearly. Between the obviously non-Nordic terrain and the giant statue of Boethia, I can only come to the conclusion that I have been brought to her plane of oblivion, attribution's share. Where, according to books I've read, there is a sub-realm known as Boethia's Stadium, where she occasionally does host a tournament after all. The Tournament of 10 Bloods. I know little of the details, but when she spoke to me, she made it clear that her need of me was to fight in this tournament. She gave me little credit, or even mention of my status as her champion. So perhaps here for this, that has no weight at all. Unsurprising, she's never been one to let people rest on past achievements. Boethia's law, if she could be said to have one, would be, to survive is to struggle, kill or be killed. Such was the manner of her tournament, though I found it to be little of a struggle. 9 combatants I faced, her chosen from each of the 9 other races of Tamriel, it would appear, and each was a weak, nigh insignificant fighter. Some had fancy armor or weapons, some had magic. One poor fool thought to outduel me with arrows. All fell almost as soon as we began. Honestly, it was rather pathetic. But then that is Boethia's way. Perhaps those she had chosen from the other races were strong in ways I cannot see, but her way is in combat. And here they failed utterly. I could almost hear her spit on them as I skewered them with blade or bow. My reward for putting my stamp on this bit of reality was threefold, all of them artifacts. First, Boethia's walking stick. Second, the sword Goldbrand, which was also a key to opening the tomb back in Skyrim. Doing so yielded me the shield Fearstruck. Apart then from the researcher's notes near Ivarstead, it appears this is now over and done with. Surprisingly short. But the rewards for the time invested more than compensate me. And, I suppose, Aryen. I rode to the bridge leading to Windhelm. Even now I still have very mixed feelings about this city, but continue to lean towards burn it to the ground and start from scratch as the best way to deal with it. I spent several hours walking the streets, marking the places that I would be visiting soon, the people who had needed things picked up or dropped off. It was a fair list Vex and Delvin had given me. Still, before the night is out, Windhelm will have experienced a fairly substantial crime wave. The biggest trick will be ensuring that it is not connected to my leaving or my arrival. I'll be taking great personal satisfaction for the bit of larceny I'll be pulling on Elder Earlydawn. A more deserving person of a thief's attention cannot be found. Well, not now that Ulfric is dead, I mean. 2 Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. I returned to Riften in the early morning hours, and the septums from my tasked criminal activities rolled into my purse. Not that it was empty to begin with. Coin is not what I need here. but something to point me towards Nocturnal. The coin isn't bad either. 7 jobs completed from the guild in short order. Hard not to wonder then why everyone else has been having such difficulty with getting things done. I took a few more jobs in Windhelm, and Delvin pulled me to the side. Apart from being grateful to be seeing things going well for me, he had news. Even though I'd not been in Riften but a few hours, there were already stories coming in from Windhelm, people who were talking about the guild, and how they weren't to be messed with. All good, of course, and what we wanted. What it has also done is draw some attention. The good kind. Where we've gotten a special request, one that is in our own interests as well. As we'd heard, there was a rival guild trying to set itself up over in Windhelm. Now that we have good information, I'm being sent to deal with them. Bad enough that they are trying to take our jobs. But they also have no problems with killing, and that just won't do. I'll have to pass off my short absence from Windhelm as a quick hunting trip, but I don't think anyone will suspect I'm involved in the recent thefts. Or so I will have to hope. After returning to Windhelm and taking care of Vex's jobs, I went to Cruel Sea Manor to speak with Torsten, the man who had contacted Delvin. It is not a story of generosity, of course. In yet another variation on the tale of revenge, Torsten's daughter was murdered some time ago. When he tracked down the one who'd killed her, how did he put it? That he believes in an eye for an eye. Before the killer was himself killed, there was a bunch of information that the Ultima turned over. Most of it pertained to this new group, their methods, and some other bits that didn't help too much other than to confirm what we already knew. What is new is a name. Naranye. I know this name. She's a merchant in the city, and a snot of one as well. Never gives to beggars. I'm not inclined to like her already. She is, however, the only lead, so it is to her that I will be going. Once I convinced Naranye to stop being a bad actor, all kinds of wonderful little tidbits came out. This new group of thieves, styling themselves the Somerset Shadows, are really little more than grave robbers. Their leader prefers finding those already dead and robbing them. That's where things get a little wrong. Torsten didn't kill the man who killed his daughter. As it turns out, I did. Months ago. His daughter was one of the butcher's victims. Linway, the new guild's leader, simply happened to be nearby and took the girl's valuables when he saw an opportunity. As for Naranye, she's been living in terror, told that if she didn't fence items for them, she'd be dead. Turns out that back when the real guild had power and notoriety, she was fencing for us. Now, she is again, or will be once I go to Uttering Hills Cave and destroy these so-called shadows. This one I'm looking forward to, I think. These Somerset Shadows were nothing. Why anyone would be afraid of them is beyond my ability to understand. I've seen better sword technique from young boys playing in the streets of Solitude. If it hadn't been a direct rival to the guild, I'd have left them alone. They'd have gotten themselves caught or killed in short order. But since they were, I took care of it. Rooting them out and cutting them down. Even their leader, easily identified by being the one behind all the others shouting about killing me, took little time to eliminate, though I did take a few moments to see the job done properly. If you want to be a grave robber, do it out in the Nordic tombs. If you want to be a thief, join the guild. If you want to be a thief who robs the dead in a town claiming to be your own guild of thieves, be prepared to be removed. We will not tolerate rivals. and those who set themselves up as such are exempted from our rules against killing. Linway and his Somerset shadows are dead. Good riddance. I even set fire to their banner as I left, just to make sure nothing was left behind of them. I returned to Torsten and gave him the news and his daughter's locket. Though he was somewhat dismayed to learn he hadn't killed the actual murderer of his daughter after all, it didn't affect him overmuch. He had done what he believed he had to, and felt no regret for it. Torsten will also agree to use what influence he has in the city to make the recent crime spree be attributed to the guild, though any direct evidence to me will be misplaced. That means that our influence will now be established in Windhelm. Other members of the guild can now operate here. Not with impunity, of course, they'll still need to make use of their skills, but it does mean that I shouldn't need to concentrate here in the future. Not unless something else turns up. So it's back to Riften, to report to Vex, check up on the situation into Golden Glow, and possibly grab another set of jobs. I wonder, should Riften itself be the next target? It's not like they aren't ignoring us at the moment, so it may be worthwhile. I'll pass the idea past Brynjolf when I see him. 3 Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. Vex let me know in no uncertain terms that working in Riften would be pointless. The other guild members are already plying the trade here, and the locals are already falling into line. With both the Rift and Eastmarch now under our control, it was time to look to the west. I smiled and chose solitude. While I will refuse any work that targets the museum, there are plenty of folks there ripe for the taking. I'll have a number of stops to make along the way as well. There are a few stones of Baron Sire to gather along the way, and I need to take a quick trip over to Solstheim to close out the business with Sero. Should have done it while I was there yesterday. The ship is swift enough, though, that I should be able to get there, close things out, and be back in Skyrim with enough time left to make it to the college tonight. Actually, now that I'm thinking on it, there is still that dragon priest thing near Windhelm as well. Perhaps that, then the rest. Regardless, Solstheim first. On my way to Solitude, eventually. The tides and the currents were with us, and I arrived in Raven Rock after a short hour and a half of sailing. Captain Veleth was pleased to hear of Sigrun's death, and even more pleased to be able to pay out the bounty that Councillor Morvain had placed on her head after recent events. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was more than I had expected. The same could be said of Sero's gift to me. I hadn't expected anything other than to be free of his whole situation, but he insisted on gifting me a set of armor that he claimed was made by one of the best armor smiths in Morrowind. I'll trust him on that, but I won't trust my life with it on. I've made my own pieces, and I know how well they will stand up to punishment. I boarded the Maiden back for Solitude a mere half hour after we arrived. My coin was more than enough to silence any complaints the captain had with his short stay. Revakim was high up the mountain overshadowing Windhelm, and despite my thinking it would be a full Nordic tomb, it seems little more than a cave. Given how high up we are, it can't even really be a big one. I fear that perhaps I have wasted my time, and that Aryen's contacts have given him bad information. Even though that seems unlikely, he's never been wrong before, there has to be a first time for it, yes? Even so, I geared up for a worst-case scenario and began my explorations. I was wrong. Aryen was right. There is, in fact, an entire tomb complex under the mountain. I really should just keep my predictions to myself, I think. Especially when what I found seems fantasy. There was another dragon priest-style mask here, along with the dead researcher and his journal. He speaks of putting on the mask and jumping backwards in time, of Draugr awakening and coming at him, and of something he called a dragon break. Also a lot of fear about altering the timeline, whatever that means. This talk of going into the past while wearing a mask reminds me of the wooden mask, the one at Labyrinthian. Perhaps that was what I saw. The past. I think I had thought as much as the time, but unable to leave the room I was in, it didn't seem to matter. Here, it might. The researcher said he had failed to find any way further into the tomb, but also mentioned that one of those blocked paths was a kind of circular door that he couldn't find a way to open. His description caught my attention, for I have seen many doors that were circular before, and I suspected I knew what kind of door it would be. As I continued into the depths of the tomb, I finally encountered what I suspected I would, the Hall of Stories. And a tomb, from which sprang out something resembling a dragon priest, though it was a weak one, and had no mask when I went through its ashes shortly later. What it did have was a bronze claw. Exactly what I needed. The puzzle gate opened a few moments later. On the far side of the door, I could proceed no further. The bridge that spanned the lake was long since decayed into nothing. I had been avoiding putting on the mask, but if it could indeed take me into the past, then perhaps it would be far enough to allow me passage. At worst, I would look silly, which wouldn't matter, since there was nobody here to see me. I placed the mask on my face, and I was transported back to a time when the bridge still existed. Judging from the dragon I saw fly by through one of the windows overhead, I've gone further, and I will guess that this is either during or just before the Dragon Wars. I'm not really certain what I'm walking into here, so I will be walking into it carefully. Gods. I think this might be where the dragon priest masks were originally forged. Looking around the room, I saw designs and various materials, all of them very reminiscent of the ones that I've been pulling off of them for months now. I don't think they are imbued with their magic here, but I do think that I may have just solved the mysteries of their forging. Which means I have work to do. Most of these designs I have already harvested, if you will, from the priests I have killed. There is one design, however, which I do not. If I can create these, then there will be yet another thing in the museum that will, quite literally, never be seen anywhere else. Further down the hallway from the forge, where I created a set of orichalcum robes and armor, I found a robe by itself, by a bust of a dragon priest. It took me some moments to realize what it was I was looking at, and the connection to the wooden mask made itself evident when I did. When I went back in time, as I am sure I did, with the wooden mask, I was able to find a mask belonging to a priest called Konarek. Only the mask, though. None of his armor, or weapons, or anything else. I had wondered at the time about that, but was so busy I never looked into it. Now, though? Well, I'm glad I had Konarek's mask on me, not even sure why I never put it on display. Putting it on the bust here, though, raised the bars, and allowed me to obtain Konarek's robes. At least, I think they are. The designs are consistent. Since the wearing of these items here seemed to enable me to go further, I put on the robes as well. Behind me, a wall started glowing, and I could hear the chanting I'd come to associate with word walls. Though there was no word, I took a guess, and shouted at the wall. It shattered, and I descended further into the temple. A long bridge, with flames shooting from either side, was the next obstacle. At the far end, barely visible through the jets of flame, I could make out a large room with a throne or large chair, and a figure sitting in it. Figuring that anyone here would not be someone I'd want to have a conversation with, especially in this era, I sent an arrow through the flame jets and into his chest. When I finally inched my way through to the room, I could tell it had been set up as a combat room, likely against the person who was now a corpse, wearing an iron mask and priest robes, which, naturally, I collected. Also included was a key, and a note written in the dragon tongue. Which, of course, I still can't read. I should really do something about that someday. Beyond the door, guarded by the now dead priest, I found a set of gauntlets, golden trimmed and brimming with power. Canaric's, I would assume. A suspicion begins to form in my mind. I believe that Aryan gave me the translation for the name Canaric as Warlord. Additionally, I've had to use the voice on walls to open them, something that none of the dragon priests were known for, save one. Could Miraak have been Canaric before he betrayed the dragons and was taken into Apocrypha? I suppose I'll never know, but it might explain why his mask was hidden away in Labyrinthian, as well as why Miraak's mask is so radically different from the other priest masks I've collected. Leaving that room behind, I moved forward and encountered a maze. I have said it before, though that time it was in regard to Dwemer amusements. I hate mazes. I absolutely, with all of my soul and being, hate them. And yet, for some strange reason, everyone in the past seems to have wanted to build one. Was there some kind of ancient contest involved? Large amounts of respect and cleverness points awarded to the group who came up with the most annoying one. So yes, I walked straight into a maze. A short one, as it turned out, but no less annoying for it. At its end, on a pedestal, on a column, in the middle of a lake of sorts, was another piece of armor. Only one who knew a way to move faster than the average mortal, like, say, a Dovahkiin who knew Whirlwind Sprint, would be able to get to it, take the boots there, and then move on. So naturally, this is what I did. Also, note that my theory about Miraak still seems to hold true here. Through another door, then into a large open cave. I think I saw this cave in the present era when I had been exploring the ruins of the temple. I say this because at the far end I had seen something floating above a dais. I hadn't been able to tell what it was at that distance, but now, standing here, I know exactly what it is. What are the odds of a single mortal coming into direct contact with 4 of the Elder Scrolls? Apparently, high enough, as that was exactly what lay before me. Not that I was able to touch it. First, there was a barrier that prevented it. Second, there was the dragon that flew into the cave and attempted to kill me. Poor thing. If I'm in the Dragon Wars, the number of true Dovahkiin would have been low, and there's no way it expected to find one here. It will now never expect anything again. After a few minutes, I removed the clay mask and found myself in the giant ice cave I'd remembered seeing. I put on all of the equipment I had taken from the past, and then added in Canaric's mask to that as well, and the barrier dropped. Aryan is going to need to expand that Elder Scroll display more than he'd ever imagined. Now I just need to find a way out of here and start getting over to Winterhold.